Hi 𝙬𝙤𝙩𝙚 supporters, Kenny Sykes here, Neil, Hampshire. First of all, thanks for all those that came to the Q&A session which we did a few weeks ago. I think it was about 25 or 30 people there. We do accept that communication is really important. We want to make sure that we reach a wider audience, and so we're doing something a little bit different. We're going to have some Q&As on a reasonably regular basis. We'll see how that goes. We've had a few questions, and one of the questions that we've had is what is the current and future relationship with 𝙬𝙤𝙩𝙚 Wolves? And I'll pass over to Neil to say a few words about that.
Okay, thanks Kenny, and hi everybody. Nice new format, so let's see how it goes. The current and future relationship, the 𝙬𝙤𝙩𝙚 Wolves. Well, we've been involved with the Wolves right from the start. So I've had a lot of meetings with Dave Ellis, who is the head coach of the men's team. I've also met Charlie Beach, who's the head coach of the women's teams on more than one occasion. We've been in contact via video link with 𝙬𝙤𝙩𝙚𝙧𝙙, who's the owner of the 𝙬𝙤𝙩𝙚 Wolves, and he resides in France. He's a tech entrepreneur, so he's the man behind the idea, if you like. He's done it previously in France with a club called 𝙬𝙤𝙧𝙗 with Dave Ellis. So our relationship with them is we're helping them out at the start. The way that the rugby union leagues work are there are a high number of them, so it will take them about 8 or 9 years to get to where they want to be in terms of the rugby union championship. So I've been working with them to get an agreement to play at the ground with the council to make sure that their fixtures don't impact on ours and don't impact on South Leeds FC, who are working here as well. And to make sure that they're going to have somewhere to train. They can use potentially some of our equipment to train and support that as well. The relationship will be good because in terms of Dave Ellis having both rugby league and rugby union knowledge and played both, our head coach 𝙬𝙤𝙩𝙚𝙚 has also got his rugby union coaching badges as well, so I think that will serve as well down the line. In the future, if the Wolves are successful, it can only be good for us in terms of us being successful as well, because if you get a few 100 or maybe 1,000 or more coming to watch the Wolves down the line, then if we can get some of those watching 𝙬𝙤𝙩𝙚, then happy days.
Okay, thanks Neil. I think sort of just leading on from that really, I'll let Neil cover this one as well, because one of the questions was, will there be interchange of players? Good question.
Yeah, we did talk about that very early on, and because they're in such a low league at the moment, the interchange of players might not happen as quickly as we would hope it would. But the plan is for the Wolves to bring across some South Sea Island players. They'll be probably working in and around local schools and coaching rugby union, so they'll have a role there, and they will initially go on dual registration in rugby union. That's only just been brought in rugby union, so what you can do is dual reg between a club who are at least 2 leagues above you, so that's where they'll go in the first place. But down the line, as I mentioned earlier, because Dean has an understanding of rugby union and players there, and Dave does, what they will be looking at is to identify players who might be better suited to league, or could give us a hand with league in the summertime when they're not playing union, and we'll look to dual code those to benefit of both clubs.
And so the next question is, what's your view on the new clubs or club coming into League One?
Difficult one, and I know there were 11 applicants. One applied late and didn't even get to the starting line, and from those we've now down to 3 clubs.
Yeah.
The 𝙬𝙤𝙩𝙚𝙗 Vipers, who were based in 𝙬𝙤𝙩𝙗, just outside Norwich, if I pronounce that correctly. That's 𝙬𝙤𝙩𝙗, not Norwich. And they've got 𝚋 Vikings and Bedford Tigers. So they're going through a process with the RFL. They've had to submit plans and financials and forecasts. The RFL have been out to visit the grounds to make sure that they're up to scratch and everything. And there will then be a process where we can have a discussion as League One clubs with those people and ask them questions and make sure that we're comfortable, that they can compete and come in and add value to the competition. I think there's got to be realism, and that's if somebody like the Angling Vipers come in, we need to think about the impact that has. We've all seen Cornwall, and how difficult it's been for Cornwall, not just in terms of player pathway, but in terms of the impact on travel logistics and costs of clubs in League One going down there. It costs us about £6,500 a year going down there. So if that cost's going to come again to go down to someone like Angling Vipers, we'll have to consider how the RFL is going to support clubs in doing that. But there are other things. There are player pathways. There are where they're going to get their attendance from. Are they going to bring fans to other League One clubs? How established are they? Do they fully understand the costs of a rugby league in terms of, you got to pay your players, you got to pay a doctor, you got to pay physios, you got to pay coaches, you got to travel away, all that kind of stuff. So £6,500 cost for us to Cornwall. They've got to do that every other week. So as long as these clubs are coming in with their eyes wide open and they understand what they have to do, I'd like to see them, anyone who's successful, commit to at least, to say that they're going to be there for a minimum of 5 years. Otherwise, then I think we have to be realistic and say, if people can't do that, what we can't afford is another Oxford, Gloucester, Hemel, West Wales. It just goes on, where we brought those clubs in and perhaps not supported them in a way, and I mean that from us as clubs as well as the RFL, in a way that would have helped develop the game more, both out that way and in terms of getting a stronger league.
So another question is, why are attendances down? Well, I don't think it's just us. It's not just Hunslet. It's a problem I think that most clubs are suffering from at the moment. Even the Super League clubs, you see that their attendances are down. Clubs obviously doing everything they can to get as many people there as possible, and I'm sure Neil will probably comment on that. From our point of view, obviously it is really important. It does count towards our scores for IMG, and of course it helps with the finances, which is really important, because if we want to have a really good team, we need some really good players. Not that we haven't got some good players now, and it costs money. So get behind us. That's what I would say. But I'll pass over to Neil just for a little bit of the detail.
Yeah. So in terms of where we are this season, we last season we averaged 580 at the end, and this year we're already down to 480. So it's about 20% drop, and we've gone. That's in line with most clubs in League One and Champions. Obviously, Wakefield have booked the trend this year, but a lot of clubs that have seen their crowds drop. What it means for us is we need to work harder, and we need fans to come as well. We have a lot of season ticket holders that buy season tickets, fantastic, but they don't come. If you don't come, we can't count you in. So we do get the funding, but in terms of the scores from IMG, that's about attendance. But if you look at what we did last time against against Workington, the original game, we got, I think, 410 from memory, and last week we got 572. So that was a real big increase, and that was because we put an ex-players day on, a memory day for Paul Daly. We got some good sponsorship there. We did some local deals with the local community. We had Yorkshire Cricket Club come down and do some stuff with the kids on the pitch in terms of cricket. We had a dance group down, all that kind of stuff. So if you can engage with the local community and get them to come down and see what a vibrant place this is, then people need to understand it's not just about a game of rugby on a Sunday. That's gone now. That is the pivotal part of it, and that's what we all want to see, and we want to see the club do well. But what we want to do is come down and have a good time. We've got Sky on in here. You can watch the football now before the game and after the game. We've got good products on in the bar. We've got a great turnout in hospitality. We've got an excellent chef that we use and everything. And there's more to do than just be at the game to watch. Just turn up at 10 to 3 and then go again at 20 to 5. So we have to work hard at it. We want the support in it, and if anybody wants to come and help volunteer on a match day and help us do that, or direct us to where we can get any more support from the community, whether people, if they want us to give free tickets to kids' schools and things like that, we're more than happy to do that.
Some great stuff there, Neil, and yeah, I'd sort of agree with all that. We've got a few more games now. We hopefully will be in the playoffs. We're in a good position, third place. So we've got to sort of keep that going. So let's really get behind the lads for the last few games of the season. Next question, another one for you, Neil, keeping you busy. What is the change in league format next year?
Well, you have to be Einstein to work out some of these league formats that they have. I mean, the playoff system that we use, the Mackenzie system, was devised by someone with a greater mind than me, I think. In terms of the change in league format next year, so what we're going to have at the end of this year is that 2 clubs will be relegated from the Championship. The top team from League One will be promoted, and then the playoff will be for League One will be between the teams from position 2 to position 6. Whoever wins that playoff will then have an elimination final away at the third from bottom in the Championship, and the winner of that will take up the final place in Championship next season. So that will give you 10 clubs in League One, and then if we get the new club from one of the 3 that I mentioned earlier, that will give us 11 clubs in League One next season, and then 13 in the Championship, and then the year after it'll drop down to the Super 8s to make sure that it's 12 and 12.
Thanks, Neil. That quite complicated, really, isn't it? In a sense, you know. So I'm sure not everybody will understand that. But if you want to pull us aside separately and ask us, that'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean the Super 8s. Just to mention the Super 8s, they are on a little bit of a different basis next year because the fixture calendar is quite full. So instead of playing everybody once, you'll only play the teams from the opposing division. So the top 4 in League One will play the bottom 4 in Championship, and that's it. The year after, the Super 8s will return to how they used to be, which is that every team will play everybody else at least once, and the number of home games will be determined by where you finished in the league. So the top 2 in League One and the top 2 in the Champ will get the 4 home games, and the 3 away games.
Yeah. Cheers, Neil. Thank you. So this question is the club financially secure? I'll take that, or Neil may wish to come in maybe at the end on it. I mean, the answer to that is yes. We've put ourselves in a good position. We've been very, very prudent with our money, and we'll continue to do that. We've forecasted possibly a little bit of a loss next year, but from a cash flow point of view, we're okay. But as I've said previously, it's about something different, isn't it? We want a good team. We want to support a good team. We want some good players. So therefore, we do need more money. We need money from new sponsors and also from the supporters, and that's more supporters.
Yeah, obviously, I think we need to say thank you to our main sponsors, 24/7 Blind, Jason Pekin, and our main investor, Tony Levison. I think they've been absolutely outstanding, and they've promised that they will be supporting us again next year. So that's great. They've challenged us to go out and get some more sponsors and look at doing things a little bit differently, and we are doing that as well. So it's good that they're not just there to say, here's a few quid. They're actually sitting there back there and saying, by the way, lads, have you thought about this, that and the other? And that does make us think as a club, and it will make us operate in a different way.
So the next question is, why do we have preference for card and online against cash?
There's a number of reasons for that. We've got to think about the moving into the modern world, really. Most businesses use card and online now. In terms of a cash, if you think about the fact that you've got to then count that cash up, put it in a safe, then double count it the following day and take it to the bank, and then the bank and the cashier's got to count that. That's all physical work, and it's actually a dangerous role if you've got somebody carrying £2,000 and £3,000 or more from takings, or whether that's from the game or from behind the bar or whatever. That puts that person in a dangerous position, and we don't want to do that. If it's card, it goes straight through to your bank, and we can check how much that is straight away through our bank account. In terms of the costs, online versus banking, well, realistically, I know you get charged for using online and for using cards, but you also get used for having, charged for having a business bank account. So the cost is not that much different in terms in that respect. In terms of next season, we are potentially going to only run one cash bar, which will be the Phoenix bar, and every other bar will go to card. And we will also be encouraging people to use card in the Phoenix. And as well as that, cash payments on the day for paying to come in will be more than it will to get your ticket online beforehand. But we are the only club, and we will remain the only club, I think, that will allow you to purchase a ticket for the game online up to the kick-off time on the day, up to 3 o'clock. So we don't cut that off any earlier, so that if people do come down and want to use that option, then they can do.
Why have we used so many loan players and dual reg this season?
I think the realistic reason is that Dean came in at a difficult time. So Killer had left. The recruitment and the retention of players was largely down to myself, yourself, helped by Danny Burton and Ryan Jackson, who did a sterling job. So arguably the squad that Dean inherited might not have been the squad that he was looking at initially. He brought another few of his own players in, and then he had a look at them, and like any head coach does, they decide after a while that some players might not be fitting into the kind of pattern of play that they want to do, and they want to move them on. So it's been no different to me than the first year we had GT, the first year we had Killer, when Dean's come in, looked at it, changed it around, brought other people in on loan, looked to bring other people on dual reg. And I think what you find that next season is that whilst in any season you can have dual reg and loan players, it will be a lot less movement, because he will have much more control over the squad that he wants and the squad that he's going to get for next season.
Next one, how are we going to get to the championship?
I think in terms of the championship, obviously it's very difficult to get in there. I've said on a number of occasions that you could take the bottom 4 or 5 clubs out of the championship and swap them with the top 5 clubs in League One, and there wouldn't be really any difference in where they finish in either league. So you've got to have a bit of luck, you've got to have a good ethos around the club, and you've got to have a good coach, and you've got to have a good squad, and things have got to go right. You've got to avoid injuries, you've got to avoid suspensions, and you've got to have everything at the right time. If you look at when Killer was here and we finished second in the league, if those playoffs had been held 4 weeks before, I think we'd have stormed that playoffs. But by the time we came to the playoffs, with 3 or 4 key players out through injury, it obviously become a well-known fact that Killer was moving on to Swinton, which whatever you may think of that, it will have had an impact on the squad and knowing what was going to happen for the following season. So I think you've got to get a lot of things to come right to get to the championship. But the bottom line is you need a little bit more money. You need finance. We need to increase the playing budget. We probably would need to increase our playing budget by another £50,000 to £75,000 from what we've got currently, to be not assured, but with the best possible chance of competing with the teams above, because they all have higher budgets, and because the access into the championship from next season is going to be through that Super 8, so you'll be competing in that space. So for me, that's how you get in the championship, but it's easy to say it. Whether you do or not depends on your performances on the field, and you've seen it before where you've had teams pay an absolute fortune now and not make it.
That's it. I mean, it is definitely the aspiration of the club. It's certainly my aspiration. I think we should look at clubs like Batley as a good example, really, of a club that's competed well in the championship for a number of years with a fairly limited budget, and I think that's the situation that we're in, really. But that's where we really need to be in the future, and that's what we'll be aiming towards. Okay, so this is the last question for now, at least. Anyway, so what's your thoughts on the team's performance this year? Well, I think we've done pretty well actually. I think at the beginning of the season, if we'd have thought that we'd be in the top three or third position, I think we would have taken that. So we're primed now. We're in with a really good chance of getting into the playoffs. We certainly will be in the playoffs, but it's all about hitting form at the right time. And I know that that's what Dean is trying to do with the players. Cornwall this week, and then 1 or 2 really tough games after that. But ideally, we need to finish in that third position. We've got good squad, got some good players, and I'm feeling really optimistic. So I think all in all, we've had a really good season. I think Dean's done extremely well with the players that we've had at our disposal, and let's bring it on. So that's it for now. I hope you enjoy listening to this. So if you've got any more questions for a future similar question and answer session, send them to us, and that's it. So thank you from me.
Yeah, thanks from me, and let's have more questions for Kenny next time, please. Thank you.
Thank you.